Alright, so I was inspired by Sam Keeper of Storming the Ivory Tower to um, to create this series of podcasts, or well, podcasts-like things. Yeah, a series of podcasts, really rough podcasts, really. Um, because for her Patreon, she records these podcasts based on episodes she wants to do, and blog posts she will write, really. So they're basically just notes for herself, so she can look back at them, listen back at them, and get her thoughts in order, really. So I was listening to them, and I listened to, they're really rough, but she does them while playing Minecraft or similar games, like really basic games. And they're clearly not really made to be listened to, but she makes them available to her Patreon supporters, so that's really nice. So I was listening to that, and I was thinking, like, I could do something like that. So, here I am, I guess. I'm playing Trackmania right now. It's a game I kind of grew up with, I guess. I mean, I played it when I was... I must have played it like 8 years ago or something. I was really big into it, and I kind of lost my username and password. Well, I should still have my username. I assume it's just MapleStrip, but I have no idea what my password was. Apparently it wasn't my standard password, because I can't log in with it. So right now I am trying to get to gold and green for all the levels. See if I can do it. I should, some of the black levels, one of the really late levels, those are all rather difficult to get higher rankings in. Right now I'm in the first green level, trying to get green. I already have gold in this level. So that's kind of fun. I figured it would be a fairly good game to play while I try not to be too distracted. Comparatively at least. Sam also played like Agario in one episode, and that worked really well, so I might try something like that as well at some point. But I figured, hey, I haven't played Trackmania in so fucking long, it would be fun. And if everything goes alright, I have a new record, yay. No green yet though. So that's how this is set up. So recently there has been a bit of a controversy related to Crunchyroll, and I figured I'd just talk a bit about that because I wanted some topic to talk about, and that seemed like a topic that everyone has opinions about. I have opinions about it as well, of course. So I figured it would work fairly well, and for a rough podcast like this, tryout episode. And I'm also just really annoyed by how most people are talking about the High Guardian Spice controversy, or the Crunchyroll controversy in general right now, of course. Because there are a lot of really valid complaints about it. And I'm not quite happy with the current situation either. But I also think there are a lot of interesting and cool things about it, so I figured I'd talk about it. So, in case you haven't heard yet, in case you aren't into the anime community or in the animation communities or what have you, Crunchyroll recently, basically last week or so, they released a trailer or a preview of an animated series they are producing. They got a team together, and they're making an animated series set in a kind of medieval fantasy setting. There's some Nordic influences, but it's mostly just fairly generic medieval, I think. Some witchcraft also. A bit Little Witch Academia like, really. which also has some Nordic and Central European, Northern European ideas. So they're producing a show like that. And it's entirely based in a, let's just call it 2010s American cartoon art style. I think some people call it the Kel art style or something like that. I don't really know. I quite like the style. It is indeed a bit reminiscent of Steven Universe, for example. But, well, one of the most notable complaints about it, I think, is that it just isn't the kind of show that anime fans or people who are subscribed to Crunchyroll in particular are interested in. I mean, some are, of course. As I'll get into later, I'm quite interested in these kinds of shows. But a lot of people are interested in Crunchyroll specifically because it is an anime platform. Because it makes available all kinds of Japanese animation, but also just things in the style of Japanese animation, which can, of course, be an entire argument on its own. But High Guardian Spice is very clearly not particularly anime inspired, at least not any more anime inspired as any other given animated series is on Cartoon Network or something like that right now. So the people who pay $7 a month for their Crunchyroll subscription are a bit like, this is not what we sign up for, this is not what we're paying you for. Because the idea, this is at least the idea that Crunchyroll tries to push as much as possible, and fans of Crunchyroll also like to bring up a lot. The idea is, of course, that the money you put into Crunchyroll for your subscription directly goes back to the creators of the anime studios. You name them, Madhouse, etc. So people think like, hey, why do you have so much money over to also produce other animated series that aren't, to also produce an entirely new animated series? Or why do you have money left over to do conventions, which Crunchyroll also does? And I'm not subscribed to Crunchyroll, so I don't have too many opinions on this topic, I suppose, because it doesn't technically affect me. But I have been interested in getting a Crunchyroll subscription. I'm definitely interested in knowing how to support the creators that I like. And among those creators are anime studios. So I'm always thinking about how can you support those creators. And the main reason I am not interested in Crunchyroll is because I don't feel like the money is there is an effective way to get money to those creators. So a lot of people are talking about this specifically because it is a nicely it's a relatively non-controversial opinion to have on this situation, because it isn't about the content of the show at all, honestly. Because the content of the show itself is also controversial. I'll get into that in a second. But just the idea that that Crunchyroll is producing an animated series, or that Crunchyroll is just the idea that Crunchyroll is doing all kinds of stuff that just isn't getting that money in the hands of the creators of the anime that people try to support, that people want to support with this. And so people like Digibro is, of course, the most one of the bigger ones. When you look up High Guardian Spice on on YouTube, the first result is literally Crunchyroll stop by Digibro, which is in part, it is about quite a lot of stuff, but it's in part about how Crunchyroll just is doing a lot of stuff that just isn't related to supporting the anime community. And now later, Digibro also made a video, really multiple videos, talking about how Crunchyroll has never really been a good way to support the anime community. And I'll probably link at least one of those videos in the description here, because he makes some kind of important points that even if all the money you spent were to go to the anime that you watch on this service, it would still just not be a lot. It would still just not really be worth it, because Crunchyroll subscription is $7 a month, and you just know, of course, Crunchyroll takes a big cut of that for themselves. I have no idea how big that cut might be. It could be between 10% and 70%. So. But this money also gets split up for all the anime that you watch on the service. So from what I understand, at least all the money goes to anime you actually watch. Or well, the studios you actually watch, of course. So that's good. But it's really, when you watch 2 shows, you pay, or if you watch 3 shows, you pay each studio basically, what is 7 divided by 3? Hell, if you watch 7 shows, you only pay each studio $1 a month. And that's only for that one specific month, by the way. I have no idea what would happen if you don't watch one of their shows the month after. You probably aren't paying that studio anything. Oh, there's a tough turn right here. Clear U-turn. Definitely have to brake here. Wow, okay. So it's just not no matter how you look at it, it's just not a good way to support the shows you love. You're better off basically just buying one DVD of a specific show you really love, compared to getting a Crunchyroll subscription and watching like 4 shows a month and kind of liking half of them, for example. Or even if you really like half of them, do you really want to pay all of them the exact same amount of money? It just doesn't give you any power. It doesn't give you any. It just doesn't give your money any power, really. I mean, the proverb is, of course, to pay to vote with your money. And it's just a relatively poor way to do so, compared to, and this is of course always a kind of interesting idea, compared to something like Patreon, which I, as mentioned earlier, use for other creative people, mostly Western creative people, Americans. I mean, I pay Sam Keeper to just keep the example going that to give the name I gave earlier as well. I pay her like $7 a month, so that's one creator that already gets more money from me than any show would if I had a Crunchyroll subscription. And those studios, they need a lot of money. It's just like if you have 100,000 fans on Crunchyroll that watch your show on Crunchyroll, which is a ridiculously high number for something on Crunchyroll, I think. Maybe not if you're like Attack on Titan, but it is if you're something like I don't know, Flip Flappers. I don't know, something relatively niche, I suppose. That's just a really high number for something like that. So imagine if you have 100,000. If you have 100,000 viewers on Crunchyroll, each paying $7 a month, That's $700,000. Except they also watch like 3 other shows, so divide that by 3, I guess. Or let's just make it like $300,000, $200,000. And that's for 1 month. Or maybe 2 months. No. $200,000, that would be $400,000 in total. Divide that by half because like Crunchyroll gets a huge cut of that. What you end up with is a few $100,000, but that's enough maybe to fund. I have no idea how much that is. I have a feeling that this game isn't actually all that good to play while you're trying to think about what you want to say. It's just not the most effective way to pay someone money. I mean, you just end up giving a show like $1 a month if you're lucky, and that's for an entire anime studio, whereas I'm paying any given Patreon person at least like $5 a month. And of course you only pay during the months that they are actually producing the show that you like. Whereas while I support a webcomic, for example, webcomics generally run for large amounts of times at a time. So like the webcomic Rain, for example, it happens to be on an hiatus right now, but it does usually run every single month of the year, so that's the difference. So it's just a question of how do you best support anime, and when it comes to a company like Crunchyroll that takes a cut for itself, that pays for conventions and weird projects like High Guardian Spies, and that probably doesn't actually get all that much money to the original studios and more to just the executives of the shows themselves, because the executives of the companies that own these shows, and then I'm thinking about what are some really big ones in Japan. Well, there are some really big companies, of course. It is not effective. It is not what people are looking for. It's not what people. It just doesn't work. And this has just kind of come up again now that Crunchyroll is producing an entire animated series, which is something they haven't done before. They have done some really weird projects before, like the Crunchyroll Awards and of course those conventions. But you know, those are the Crunchyroll Awards were purely a digital web design project, more like than anything as significant as a convention. Those conventions could also probably make them money as well. So like, it's fair. They also take a role of giving the anime community in America, at least, a place to exist, to communicate, etc. Ugh, I hit the side of the road. But this is just not related to anime at all. It is slightly, because I am both an anime fan and a Western animation fan right now. Personally, I think that animation right now is better than it has ever been before in history, basically. As fairly talented creators are all working on fairly interesting projects. Stuff like Gravity Falls, Steven Universe, and perhaps Adventure Time and Over the Garden Wall, and has Infinity Train ever become something? Those are all good examples. So yeah, as soon as I saw this trailer, I was pretty into it, honestly. Some aspects of it are sold quite well. It's clear that the staff working behind it has a real passion for it. The art for it looks kind of webcomic-y, which makes sense because the lead creator is kind of webcomic-y as well. Ray Rodriguez, he's an artist that has done some webcomic-like stuff, or has a blog with a webcomic, something like that. I haven't looked into it all that much, but it's kind of tapastic, like a bit of comedy, very LGBT. It's pretty cute, pretty cool. So you got stuff like that. So yeah, I'm into it. So one aspect of this entire controversy is that the trailer doesn't actually show any animation right now. It only shows character designs, a few background sketches really, and some storyboards. Like, it doesn't actually show any work yet, but it's mostly just the staff talking excitingly about what they're gonna do, and being really excited that it is such a diverse, that the show has such a diverse cast and it's such a diverse staff. So like, a lot of anime fans, and of course this varies a lot. There's a clear LGBT-like anime fandom, a fandom who are really into the Yuri as LGBT representation, and who are, and of course there are a lot of LGBT people in the anime community, because anime is the kind of niche thing that is mostly popular among people who have been somewhat isolated to some degree from their own community, due to who they are and who their family and communities are. So there are a lot of LGBT people in the anime community. So those people really like this kind of thing, and that kind of includes me, because I kind of consider myself part of that group, I suppose. But of course, the anime community is also well known for having at least some. Well, it is one of those nerd communities, one of those. It is not. It is somewhat different from gamer communities, but it is kind of in the same ballpark of. Yeah, I don't even know how to describe this idea. But there are some assholes in the community. Let's just leave it at that. And they are. There are some people in this community who would complain a lot about SJW bullshit. Let's just put it like that, because that's. I think that's accurate, an accurate description of the situation. And those people are really upset by this, because not only is this not what anime fans generally would want, but it also just doesn't. It also just fits into that pattern of diversity for diversity's sake, and especially because the trailer talks about that so much. So, it brings up the word female and diversity at least twice, both, if not 3 times. Yeah, that's kind of weird. What is just generally weird is that this trailer puts so much emphasis on who is creating this work, and not about the content even, but about what this work is for, I guess. What the goal is for them to be creating a cartoon like this one, which just generally makes you. It's just generally a bit weird. What I found the weirdest myself, I think, is that the trailer really pushed the idea that it's 2D animation, which is honestly, to me, it's the weirdest part of this, because for animated series in particular, but for Crunchyroll series in particular, but for animated series in general, it is just still common for everything to be 2D. So I have no idea why the trailer put so much emphasis on something that is just industry standards, but okay. So yeah, I found that one of the weirder things about the trailer myself, but I think I kind of went off topic. I don't really know what I was going with that anyway. So, what do I actually think about High Guardian Spies? What do I think it will be? So opinions are a bit mixed. Well, they are generally fairly negative, I suppose. Personally, I was quite positive about it when I first saw the trailer. Because I was a little bit done in by the music and by some of the character designs. The character designs are very webcomic-y, as I mentioned earlier, and it's just really nice to me. And the color designs, it's very Magical Girl inspired as well. So like the main character has bright pink hair, and some other characters, they all have bright colors going on. It's just really, it looks quite nice. I like the color design. Even if there's nothing else there. Yeah, that's the kind of the question, because some people feel like it's really generic, which that's kind of a buzzword that people like bringing up anyway. But some people also, close. But what is also criticized about High Guardian Spies right now is that there just isn't any hook to it yet. We don't even really have a plot. We don't actually know all that much about it. We know maybe the names of the main characters. No idea what they are right now, but we have barely even seen them. Like, the main characters are shown in... I don't think even their actual character designs are shown, though they are shown on the cover or the poster or whatever, and maybe in a few storyboards, but they aren't shown animated or anything like that yet, so we just don't know all that much yet. So we don't know anything about what the plot will be like. We know that that they're in a kind of magical school and they're learning to be warriors or something like that, and it's just it is kind of Little Witch Academia-ish, kind of Harry Potter-ish maybe. Like, I wouldn't be surprised that all of the main character, the pink haired character, isn't from a magical lineage or something like that. Like, but we just don't know yet. Everything we do know is actually really generic. Some of the character designs are just kind of, well, I quite like them, but they aren't particularly unique or anything. So a lot of the backgrounds are very detailed, but there isn't actually all that much to them. Like, there's one background of the inside, the hallway of someone's home, or maybe a school office, might be possible, but it seems like someone's home. And it is clear that it's some kind of wizardy witch's home. So, a witch's home, but also with some wizard aspects, So you have all these books and candles and paintings of witches and maybe like a skull or some kind of weird looking things like that. But the only things that are really unique to it, because everything I just mentioned just now is just kind of what you expect from such an environment. Basically, the only thing I can think of that's kind of unique about it is the fact that it has a lot of plants in it, like a lot of them, which kind of suggests that it's a plant-based witch. But those plants aren't rough or anything. They are kind of neat, but they are also, they look a bit wild, but they are really neat. So that's kind of neat. It suggests that it's a plant-based witch, I suppose, that lives there. But, you know, that isn't particularly interesting. And there's the fact that there are 2 pairs of shoes, one big one, one pair of small ones, and one pair of big ones. And that's just like, okay, so a kid probably lives here. But that's literally the only 2 things I could look at in that room and think, yes, those are things that actually say something about the character that lives here, maybe. And the other 2 backgrounds that I can think of, at least, there are probably more of them, is a cave, which looks really good, also really detailed, but I don't know. And an outdoorsy environment, which also looks really nice and quite detailed, but there's nothing unique about it. It's just, it looks a bit English countryside, but it also looks a bit more rough than that would look. But there isn't any weird architecture or weird trees. Everything is the colors you would expect them to be. So it doesn't seem like it will be going for any of that. Let's just say it like that. So we're not entirely certain yet what to think about it. Or at least I'm not certain about it yet. A lot of people seem to be very certain that it will be shit, but we'll see. And one of the things I'd also point out is that the backgrounds, because of their huge amount of detail, I don't think that they could consistently do it. Like, they couldn't keep up that kind of detail quality. I don't think that, I'm not even sure if it needs to be like that, if it needs to have so many details. And I do think the character designs would pop really well with those backgrounds, by the way. Like, the character designs are fairly nice and simple, and they would probably work really well with really intricate backgrounds with a bit more subdued colors. Ah, fuck. Yeah, I'm going out of this level. Let's go for an acrobatic one. So yeah, I think that's all I had to say about High Guardian Spies. I'm just not. I was kind of sold on it when I first saw it, but as I rewatched it earlier, and when someone was talking about it, I also kind of realized that there's just wasn't all that much to it. A few of the character designs just really stand out to me, but it isn't possible to say what they'll do with it. So we just don't know yet. So I guess that's the first vloggy episode that I'm going to be doing. Yay, I got gold in this level. Let's try to get green. I will probably do more of these. I quite enjoy this already. I don't know how difficult this will be to edit. I will try to edit as little as possible, so it will probably not change much. It will probably be really shitty quality. Right now I'm basically just talking just to make just so I can play this level for a bit longer. Right now I'm editing a podcast on Always Human, so I hope that will be coming out very soon. I currently don't have any videos planned, though this kind of behavior might help me just getting a video out again sooner, like getting into the groove again. And just audio editing a bit. I'll have to put a image on top of this podcast, of course, because I was too lazy to record any of my actual gameplay. There we go. No green yet though. So yeah, thanks all for listening, and see you later.